Ladies and gentlemen, don't get caught off guard because you don't live in the areas that have been affected by what happened in Texas here a few weeks back. Only because it happened in a different state than where you live doesn't mean that it's going to affect only that state. It can very well affect other states as well. And as you can see here, it says that food banks are bracing for shortages after the Texas freeze killed many of the state's produce. And I do remember reporting on this slightly back then when farmers were saying that a lot of the crops that they had on the ground were affected. I believe that one of the statistics that I mentioned was that 40% of the winter wheat harvest had been lost to frost. Now, that's not just going to affect Texas. That's why I believe that it's important for us to know what's going on in our country as well as outside of our borders. Here it says that the economic fallout of the health crisis resulted in a significant rise in hunger across the U.S. and Texas, where more than 2.6 million households have said they sometimes or often did not have enough to eat, according to a February survey. 21 food banks in Texas saw an increase in food assistance needs since last March. Hurricanes, extreme heat, and massive flooding tested them over the years, but they never faced a health crisis like this before. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what they just explained here is what was happening prior to this freeze. So we were already in a suspect kind of a way prior to this deep freeze. Now we're getting hit with this, or Texas is getting hit with this. And I do believe that it will not only affect food prices in Texas, but throughout the country as well. Why is that? Because when a region, in this case, that state, the state of Texas, is low on something, they're going to get it from somewhere else, right? Because the people have to eat. Where are they going to get it from? They can import it from Mexico, but that will put a strain on the supply and demand of the produce and foods in Mexico. They can import it from California, but the same thing there. It will put a strain on the supply and demand of what California farmers can produce. So the prices are going to go higher, not only for Texans, but for us. And I've been talking about this for a long time. Prices are going to go higher. Prices are going to go higher, and they have. But the thing is they're going to continue to go higher. That is why I'm a very big advocate of you being prepared with those things that you're going to need in the future. Get them now, while your dollars can buy you more of them than they can a year or 2 years from now. Look at it this way. Everyone is always saying buy the dip, in accordance with the stock market or precious metals or even cryptocurrencies. People say buy the dip. Oh, the stock market went down today by 1,000 points. Okay, buy the dip. Oh, silver went down to $12. Great, buy the dip. Oh, Bitcoin went down to $47,000. Oh, that's great, buy the dip. So why don't you buy the dip in the prices of food? And the dip, ladies and gentlemen, is now, because the price of food ain't getting any cheaper. All right, it's only going to get more expensive as time goes on. So instead of spending your stimulus check, if you got one, on things that don't really add value to your life, like big screen TVs, like Air Jordans that cost $500, instead, why don't you go ahead and take a look at your pantry, see what it is that you eat on a regular basis, and then multiply that times 1, 2, 3, 6, even 12 months. That way you can have the form of insurance that many people in the U.S. today don't have, and that's food insurance. This was a disaster that was staying around. It wasn't just coming and going as many of the disasters in Texas. And what they're talking about is that this disaster that they had with the winter storm that they had there, it's a disaster that will have long-lasting effects. It's not that one day it was there or 1 week it was there, and then when it was gone, everything goes back to normal. There are going to be secondary, tertiary, and fourth order effects to what happened in Texas. And it's going to affect all of us, ladies and gentlemen. They continue to say that farmers lost entire crops to freezing temperatures. Grapefruit and orange trees in the Rio Grande Valley and leafy greens in the Winter Garden area north of Laredo and southwest of San Antonio were wiped out, and millions of gallons of milk had to be dumped. And they continue on to say that roughly 100 acres of cabbage and onions were lost because plants couldn't withstand days of freezing temperatures. The president of Winter Garden Produce says He's worried that even more acres could be lost in the next weeks and months, leaving farm workers with less work or without a job, period. So not only are food prices going to go up, but jobs are going to be lost due to the weather that they're having in Texas. And these are the things that we have to prepare for, ladies and gentlemen. We don't know what's going to happen next week. We don't know what's going to happen next crop season, next planting season, or the next harvest. We don't know this. So why in the world wouldn't you take heed to the warning that you need to be prepared with some food insurance amongst other types of insurance, like electricity insurance? Imagine that, having a small generator that can keep your house running when something goes wrong with the grid. Over the past year, farmers in the Rio Grande Valley have struggled with the health crisis, extreme drought, and hurricane that made them lose 20% of their crops. So, ladies and gentlemen, this just keeps mounting on top of itself. The losses are astronomical as far as I'm concerned, and it's only going to result in one thing. Now, take into consideration the losses of crops and the supply and demand for those crops that exist, how that's going to have the prices go up. Take into account that the price of oil is going up and everything that is made with oil is going to cost more. Like I stated on a previous video, almost everything that you purchase has something to do with oil. Oil is the most used commodity in the entire world, followed by silver. So do you think that the price of goods, the price of transportation, is not going to go up when the price of oil is going up? I'm sure that you've already realized this at the gas pump. Here, where I live in Alaska, in about the last month, the price of gasoline has gone up, I would say, at least $1. So that's going to affect the prices that you pay at the supermarket. And this is just another layer on top of that price inflation that if you're not seeing it already at the supermarket, you will be seeing it soon. And I'm not talking about price inflation that we've seen throughout the last year, but on top of the price inflations that we've seen throughout the last year. So that's why I said that I don't believe that there's going to be an actual food shortage, a physical food shortage for a couple of more years until all of these events stack up on top of each other. And then we actually have a physical food shortage where there's just not that much food to go around. I believe that the food shortage that will exist from now until there's an actual food shortage, physical food shortage, is going to be a monetary problem. It's going to be a problem where people just don't have enough money to buy the food that they need because the price of food keeps going up. Here it says that higher costs are ahead. Food bank leaders in different regions of the state who spoke with CNN said they are worried because a shortage of crops would mean higher costs for them. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, that makes me feel pretty good that we came together to help food banks in Texas. And I just wanted to go ahead and put a quick side note on this. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that may not know, we are still collecting for Texas food banks through the 31st of March. So on April 1st, I will be gathering all of the funds that were collected via the link down below in the description of this video that states buy a coffee for charity. I will be collecting all of those funds and I will be donating it to a food bank in Texas. I've already picked the food bank out. It's a small community run food bank that can really use the help. So anyone that would like to donate, please use the link below and feel at rest knowing that every penny that you donate will be going to a food bank in Texas. Here, probably the first week of April, we'll have that done. So carrying on, with limited surplus of produce, food banks would have to reach outside of Texas and other growing areas in California, Arizona, or even Washington to fill the gaps. The cost paid to the growers could increase 2 to 4 cents per pound, plus the cost of freight depending on how far the produce has traveled. So you see, all of these things come together, ladies and gentlemen. The cost of freight, the cost of supply and demand, being that we have a smaller harvest because of the weather. That cost could be even higher for rural areas and places considered as food deserts. And what they're talking about is areas where there are like no supermarkets or no major brand stores where people can go and buy foods. That's what they mean by food deserts. Continuing on, Libby Campbell, executive director of the West Texas Food Bank, said the organization depends heavily on farmers in South Texas because of their proximity. And she says that we are off the beaten path. We are a long distance away and we have to pay for good quality produce and not near rotten because it has to spend 1 or 2 days traveling in a truck. Then we have to process it, and then we have to ship it out. Cooper says several growers have called saying they don't believe they will be able to donate produce this year. As the next growing season approaches, Cooper hopes things will improve for farmers and farm workers. There will be another season coming, but what do you do today? Cooper said. What can we do to put food on the table now? And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and finish it off with this. That is a great quote. What can we do to put food on the table now? Do you want to find yourself in that position? Telling that to your family. What can we do to put food on the table now? I'm telling you right now what you can do. What you can do is you can stock up your pantry, right? Stock up your pantry with things that you know will last you a long time, with staples that are cheaply purchased in bulk, like rice, beans, wheat, oats, sugar, flour. These are things that are still available to you in bulk prices that you can get cheaply, put away easily, and that will last you a long time. Just in case something like this happens in your near vicinity, and there's nothing that you can do about the price of food going up, ladies and gentlemen. We can all shout and scream all we want, but the price of food is going to continue to go up. So plan ahead, prepare now, because tomorrow we are all going to need the preps that we put away today. For those of you that don't know, today at 3 p.m. Alaska time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I will be doing a live stream on the Alaska Prepper News channel. All right, so if you want to join me over there on the Alaska Prepper News channel, 3 p.m. Alaska time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Last week when we had our live stream there, we had a great time talking about the economy, talking about finances, talking about gold, about silver, even about cryptocurrencies. Bring your questions over and let's have a good time chatting it back and forth. Hope to see you there. All right. Other than that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper, and I am out.